Okay, the second part of today's video is going to cover pages 10 and 11. So here you have the quadratic formula. So what we've been doing in the past is solving quadratic equations using the zero product property. Remember, quadratic equations have two solutions. They're x squared, exponents 2, so you have two solutions. So what we're going to find out is you can't always use the zero product property. Like here, you need numbers that multiply to 2, that add up to 3, 2 and 1. That works. We can do the zero product property after we factor to solve this equation, but that's not always the case. So if you take a look at this equation, we're going to have a quadratic equation that's going to be in this form: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So a, b, and c are just numbers. They can be positive or negative. A is going to be found in front of the x squared, b is going to be found in front of the x, and c is going to be the number by itself. In order to use the quadratic formula, your equation must be set equal to 0 first. So you might need to move a term or two terms before you can use this quadratic formula. All right, this part of the equation, negative b, I refer to this as the opposite of b. I like using that language. I think it's helpful. And the other thing, this b squared, you're always going to want to put parentheses around the b, which comes in under the square root. So that's going to be the second part. Okay, let me scroll down to the next page. Okay, so you can see the direction solve for x round to the nearest hundredth. We've not seen that before when we've been using the zero product property. So this is a big hint that you're going to have to use the quadratic formula, that you're not just going to be able to use factoring in the zero product property. So the first thing that we want to do is identify what a, b, and c are. So here, a is equal to the number in front of x squared, which is a 1. B is equal to positive 8. And c is equal to negative 5. At this point, I'm going to substitute these values into the quadratic formula. X equals. All right, we're going to start with the opposite of b, which is going to be negative 8, plus or minus. That's a symbol we haven't seen before. All that means is we're going to have two solutions. One is going to involve addition, one's going to involve subtraction. We have the square root. B goes in parentheses, b squared minus 4 times a times c. This is divided by 2 times a. Right? So that's how you're going to substitute into the quadratic formula. And then from there, what you're going to have is you're going to have to plug this in the calculator, one using the plus sign, one using the minus sign. So again, I don't have an Inspire at home here to show you, but you're going to do control divide on your calculators to get a fraction. Again, that's control divide. So you have negative 8 plus your square root is going to be your yellow control button and then the x squared button. Parentheses 8 squared, you can hit that x squared button, minus 4 times 1 times negative 5 divided by 2 times 1. So that'll be one of the solutions. And then if you arrow up so that it's in bold, hit enter. And then if you just keep hitting the left arrow, we copy and paste it. And then we're just going to change the addition to subtraction. Oops, I messed that up. So those are going to be our two solutions. 0.58. The number after it is a 2, so this stays 0.58. Negative 8.58, same thing. Somebody said this rhyme last week. If it's 5 or more, raise the score. So neither case is. It's going to be 0.58 and negative 8.58. So if we come back here, x equals. We have 0.58. That came from the addition. And negative 8.58. That came from the subtraction. So what those are actually is those are the x-intercepts. Those are where this graph would cross the x-axis. We just wouldn't be able to get those from using the zero product property and factoring, because these are what are going to be called irrational solutions. And if you look back at the screen, these are decimals that go on forever that don't have a pattern. The calculator is only going to show you a certain number of decimals, but these do continue on. Okay. All right, let me delete this and move on to the next one. All right, so for number 2, what you need to do here first is get the equation set equal to 0. You can't use the quadratic formula yet because this is equal to 7. So what we're going to do, minus 7, so 2x squared plus 6x plus 3 equals 0. So a is 2, b is 6, c is 3. And then you could go from there. You can substitute that into the quadratic formula and figure out what your solutions are. And same thing with number 3. So at this point, why don't you pause the video, mark through question number 2 and question number 3, please. All right, I'm going to bring up the answer key here. Oh, I actually already had it, so that's the wrong agenda. Here we go. Okay. All right, so for the middle one here, you can see this is the opposite of b, so negative 6. Plus or minus the square root of b squared, b goes in parentheses, minus 4 times a times c, divided by 2 times a. And then one of the solutions is using addition. One of the solutions is using subtraction. So x equals negative 0.63, and x equals negative 2.37 is what you should get for your 2 solutions. And question 3 is already set equal to 0. So a is 3, b is negative 10, c is 4. You substitute in. You have to be really careful on this one because b is negative. So the opposite of b is positive 10, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which here is negative 10. You got to make sure you put the parentheses around the negative 10. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a different solution. Minus 4 times 3 times 4, divided by 2 times 3. And your 2 solutions, one using the addition is 2.87, and the one using the subtraction is 0.46. 0.46. So at this point, depending on how much class time you have left, if it's not 10:15 yet, what you can do is you can sign on back to the daily agenda, and you could take a look at the check your understanding. This is going to be for quadratic formula, though it looks like I didn't change the name. And you're going to go through a couple practice questions until 10:15, at which point you'll get your exit ticket.